There's a planet next door that is trying to tell us a story. It is a story of violence, catastrophe, and lost potential. For centuries, we looked up at the red dot in our night sky and saw a god of war. Later, we saw a second Earth, a place of canals, civilizations, and little green men. But when we finally opened our mechanical eyes and saw the reality in 4K resolution, we didn't find a civilization. We found a crime scene. Mars is not just a rock floating in the dark. It is a planetary corpse, a world that was once blue, warm, and wet, just like ours before something stripped it bare. Yet even in its desolation, it holds a magnetism that Earth cannot match. We are obsessed with it, not because it is alien, but because it is the only other place in the universe where we can stand and look at a sunset that feels almost like home. But make no mistake, this world is a trap. It beckons us with familiarity, only to reveal a landscape more extreme and hostile than anything humanity has ever endured. To understand the seduction of Mars, you have to look at the rhythm of its life. If you stood on the surface, your body would recognize the passage of time. Unlike the moon, where a day lasts a month, or Jupiter, which spins in a dizzying 10 hours, Mars ticks at a human pace. A sol, a Martian day, lasts 24 hours, 39 minutes, and 35 seconds. It is a coincidence of cosmic proportions. It means that if you lived there, you would wake up, work, and sleep just as you do here. You would watch the sun rise in the east and set in the west, though the sun itself would look smaller, shrinking to about 2/3 the size we see from Earth, bathing the landscape in a colder, dimmer light. The deception continues with the seasons, because Mars sits on an axial tilt of 25 degrees, shockingly close to Earth's 23.5 degrees. The planet sways back and forth as it orbits the sun. It has a distinct winter, spring, summer, and fall. But this is where the familiarity ends, and the alien reality begins. Mars's orbit is not a near-perfect circle like Earth's. It is an oval, an ellipse. This means the distance from the sun varies drastically during the year. If you were in the southern hemisphere, the summers are blistering and intense, while the winters are long, dark, and brutal. And then there are the colors. On Earth, our daytime sky is blue, and our sunsets are red. On Mars, the dust in the atmosphere flips this palette. The day is a butterscotch yellow, or a dusty pink, but the sunset is a haunting twilight blue. It is a reminder that you are standing on a world where the rules have changed. The most dangerous thing about Mars isn't what is there, it's what is missing. The atmosphere is a ghost. On Earth, the air presses down on us with a comforting weight. On Mars, the atmospheric pressure is less than 1% of Earth's. Standing there would feel like standing nearly 30 kilometers above the surface of our own planet, an altitude where not even jets can fly. This thin veil of carbon dioxide offers no protection and no warmth. Without a thick blanket of air to trap heat, the sun's energy escapes immediately back into space. You could be standing at the equator on a summer afternoon, enjoying a comfortable 20 degrees Celsius at your feet, but the air at your head could be freezing. The silence here would be absolute. Because the atmosphere is so thin, sound waves have trouble propagating. The roar of a rocket or the shout of an astronaut would be muffled, dying out quickly in the thin, cold air. It is a quiet world, frozen in a vacuum. Because the planet is smaller, about half the size of Earth, it cooled down faster. On Earth, our crust is constantly moving. Tectonic plates crash together, recycling rock and moving mountains. But Mars is locked in place. This lack of movement allowed geological features to grow to sizes that are physically impossible on Earth. When a volcano erupted on ancient Mars, the crust didn't move away from the hot spot beneath it. It just sat there, layer after layer, for millions of years. The result is the Tharsis Montes region, dominated by the king of all mountains, Olympus Mons. To call it a mountain is an understatement. It is a shield volcano the size of the entire country of France. It stands 22 kilometers high, nearly 3 times the height of the Mount Everest. But the most mind-bending aspect of Olympus Mons is its slope. It is so wide that if you were climbing it, you wouldn't even know you were on a mountain. The curvature of the planet would hide the peak from the base. You would simply feel like you were walking uphill forever until you reach the edge of space. But where the crust built up in one place, it tore apart in another. Valles Marineris is the scar of the solar system. While the Grand Canyon was carved by water over millions of years, Valles Marineris crease was likely ripped open when the planet cooled and cracked. It spans 4,000 kilometers. If you placed it on Earth, it would stretch from Los Angeles to New York. It is a canyon so wide that if you stood on one rim, the other rim would be over the horizon. You wouldn't see a canyon. You would see an abyss that drops 7 kilometers down into the dark. We call it the red planet. But why? The answer lies in the dust that coats everything. The Martian surface is rich in iron minerals. Over billions of years, the oxygen in the ancient atmosphere reacted with this iron. Quite literally, the planet rusted. But this is not a dead, static painting. Mars is geologically alive, driven by the wind and the sun. The dust here is incredibly fine, like cigarette smoke, and it is electrically charged. It clings to everything: solar panels, camera lenses, spacesuits. And when the wind picks up, it creates monsters. Dust devils, whirlwinds of red sand, can tower kilometers into the sky, marching across the plains like spectral giants. Every few years, these storms merge. They grow until they encircle the entire globe, turning the atmosphere into an opaque wall of dust that blots out the sun for weeks. Even stranger things happen at the poles. During the winter, carbon dioxide freezes into dry ice. When the spring sun hits this ice, it doesn't melt into liquid. It sublimates, turning instantly into gas. This gas gets trapped under the ice sheets, building up pressure until it explodes, shooting jets of dust and gas hundreds of feet into the air. When the dust settles, it creates strange, dark branching patterns on the surface. Scientists call this araneiform terrain, but it is better known by a more sinister name: the spiders of Mars. But the true tragedy of Mars is written in its rocks. Rovers like Curiosity and Perseverance have been our robotic detectives, and the evidence they have found is undeniable. They have driven over ancient riverbeds. They have drilled into rocks that are made of round pebbles that could only have been shaped by flowing currents over thousands of years. They have found sulfates and clays that only form in the presence of water. Mars was once blue. It had thick clouds. It had rain. It had a northern ocean that covered a third of the planet. It was a world ready for life. So what killed Mars? The murderer was the loss of its magnetic field. Deep inside Earth, a churning core of molten iron generates a magnetic shield that protects us from the solar wind, a stream of high-energy particles from the sun. Mars once had this shield too, but because Mars is smaller, its core cooled and solidified. The dynamo stopped. The lights went out. Without that shield, the solar wind began to attack the atmosphere. It stripped away the lighter atoms, peeling back the planet's protective layer like the skin of an orange. The pressure dropped. The ocean boiled away into space or retreated into the frozen ground. The planet transformed from a warm, wet Eden into the frozen, irradiated desert we see today. Mars travels through this emptiness with two companions, Phobos and Deimos. But even here, the story is one of struggle. These are not beautiful spherical moons. They are lumpy, heavily cratered asteroids that Mars captured with its gravity eons ago, and they are living on borrowed time. Deimos, the smaller outer moon, is slowly drifting away, escaping the planet's grip. But Phobos, the larger inner moon, is doomed. It orbits so close to Mars that it is being dragged inward by tidal forces. Every century, it gets closer. In about 30 to 50 million years, Phobos will be torn apart by Mars's gravity, shattering into trillions of pieces to form a ring around the planet, or crashing into the surface in a cataclysmic impact. There is one final image that puts this entire massive, violent history into perspective. 80 minutes after sunset, if the dust is clear, you can look up from the Martian surface and see a morning star hanging in the twilight. It is the brightest object in the Martian sky. Through a telescope, it resolves into a crescent, a sphere of blue and white. That is us. That is Earth. Seen from the red wasteland, our world looks incredibly fragile. It is a lonely beacon of life in a universe that is mostly cold. Dead rock? Mars serves as a mirror. It shows us what happens when a planet loses its heartbeat. It is a time capsule of the past and a warning for the future. We explore Mars, not just to find a new world, but to cherish the one we have. It draws us in with its mystery, challenges us with its danger, and rewards us with the knowledge that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. If you want to continue this journey through the cosmos, to understand the physics of the stars and the history of our neighbors, make sure you subscribe to the channel. The universe is vast, and there is so much more to discover.